Welcome back. Now the big question, we look at the latest voter registration figures from the Electoral Commission, IEBC. Although IEBC is yet to release the final register that will expunge about 92,000 dead voters across the country. What do these figures mean to the key presidential contenders' campaign strategies? Those are the figures now on your screen. We can look at them. Coast region, that's the difference. Okay, let's go on. Northeastern, 354,000, 501,000 now. It's a bit too fast. Eastern, 2017, 2.9 million, additional of 867,000 voters. 2017, 2.9 million in Central. Rift Valley, 4.6 million, additional 1.2 million voters there. Western, 1.9 million now, additional 405,206 voters. Nyanza, 2.6 million, 748,000 more voters. And then we have Nairobi, 2.25 million, 525,000 new voters registered in Nairobi. Because that was a bit too fast, but we'll try and recap those figures again for you. If we can take a look at some key demographics in those, in the latest list, that is the voters list. Now, 18 years to 35 years, 9.9 million. That is the key. That is the highest number of voters between 18 to 35 years. 35 to 55, 6 million. Over 55, 3.6 million. But 18 to 24 years, 3.3 million. That number could, and I'm sure does, include the new voters in this country. We'll also be looking at that. Our guest tonight, Peter Opondo Kaluma, is a Homa Bay Town Member of Parliament. Senator Kipchumba Murkomen, Elgeyo Marakwet. Felix Odhiambo is an electoral law expert, and Gabriel Mudhuma is a political analyst. Thank you so much for making time for us tonight. Are the figures indicative of how the election will turn out ultimately? I'll start with you, Kipchumba.
No, not necessarily. The registered voters is different from the turnout. Turnout will be determined by the excitement of the voters. Sometimes, voters turn out to vote out a leader or to vote in another leader, and depending on the excitement they will have. And in most cases, the highest turnout is where people are passionate to vote out. Unfortunately, when people are wanting to vote out a particular leader, even in our nominations, when we were doing the nomination, yeah, in most cases in this country, elections are about voting out people, not voting in. So usually that is actually sometimes what determines what the turnout that is going to be there. So it depends. If the area of Jubilee feels like there is a lot of determination to be voted out, now the turnout will come and protect being voted out. And so, depending on the issues that the opposition is going to raise, the level of threat. In fact, the greatest threat to Jubilee, which I belong to, is if there was going to be a relaxation, an assumption by our voters, or the areas that we will get more voters, or the demographics that are going to vote for us, when they make this assumption that we have already won. But if they feel threatened enough to see that the elections is close and we are likely to lose, then they will be able to turn out. In the same way, if the court side make this assumption that the court side voters, or the people who are likely to vote for the court side or the NASA side, make this assumption that Raila is already lost, so there is likely to be a low turnout because really there is no excitement in it.
Right. Kaluma, and what do you think? Do these figures indicate anything in terms of 2017? In terms of who has registered more voters or the numbers spread in the country, do they indicate anything?
Yes, I partly agree with Murkomen, but in fact, looking at these figures, Hussein, I don't know why the NASA team is still campaigning. These elections are already won.
Why do you say that?
Let us not make the assumption that when you see these figures, there will be any difference from what the outcome of the elections will be. We may talk of voter turnout and voter apathy, but I can tell you the elections for this year is a high-stakes game. For Raila Odinga it is a do or die. For Uhuru Kenyatta it's a do or die, lest he become the first president in Kenya not to have a second term. For Raila, he does not crack it, the chances diminish as of course we go forward. So I can tell you the thinking that there will be low voter turnout in area in this country is something you need to take out there. I think, Hussein, what we need to look at to confirm why I now understand Raila is more focused on how to avoid rigging is these numbers county by county. And you check where are the strongholds of NASA, where are the strongholds of Jubilee.
Just give us an example, because we have them. Obviously, we couldn't put on graphics all the counties, all be too much. But you have them. We all have the figures. Give us an example when you say county by county.
Look at those figures you posted there. In fact, let us block them in terms of, you know, provinces for east of
the former provinces, yeah.
The former provinces we had. Give Jubilee the entire Rift Valley. Assume Kajiado, which is NASA stronghold, is given to them. Assume Narok is given to them. Assume Samburu is given to them. Assume you know, Trans Nzoia, assume Turkana are given to them. Give Jubilee the entire of Central Kenya. In fact, assume you know, NASA has no voter in Central Kenya. Give them half of Nairobi, though we know we have higher numbers than Nairobi. In fact, give Jubilee also the entire Upper Eastern, even despite the fact that it is divided. That number still does not come to 8 million. And if you look at those numbers, even before you look at them, no, I mean they were there. That number still does not reach 8 million. In fact, today, Hussein, I've been asking why NASA is saying 10 million plus strong. My advice going forward is stop now campaigning, strategize on how to avoid rigging. We have won.
Can I say something? Okay. Can I say something before we? I know the other people maybe are less biased than me and Mheshimiwa. First of all, I would never tell Jubilee to stop campaigning. I think we must be serious. In fact, where we are moving as Jubilee is get out the vote. You know, moving to get people to come and vote. If you were to calculate, and I really don't want to make that assumption, if you were just to calculate the places where we got votes in the last elections, and you add, like Mheshimiwa said, it comes to just 9.5 million votes for Jubilee, based on the votes. But that's 9.5. But if you ask yourself, who has made greater inroads in areas that
stronghold for
each other, you know, in Western Province, for example, we are doing better than, far much better than we did in 2013. In Coast Province, we are doing far much better than we did in 2013. In Nyanza, we are doing extremely well than we did in 2013. If you come to places like Northeastern, we are going to lock it 100%. So if you think that by just going to sleep, NASA is going to win, I'm happy they go sleep. But for me, I want to tell those who are voting for Jubilee, the game is not over. Okay. We are good in paper. We must get out to vote.
Let me get Felix on this.
Yeah. I think we are staring at an extremely close election. And I've said this in the past that for the first time in our history, and contrary to the projection of both NASA and Jubilee, this election is probably the closest we've had in our history. A number of factors, of course, would have to determine it. But if you look at it per county, then and per province, as it gives different results. I think the Honorable Murkomen has tabulated it per province. And that, but if you look at it per county, and give a projection on the basis of the performance of these the two leading political coalition, then you get a situation or a feeling that the strength is almost evenly matched. But I think if that is the case, then to the extent that Jubilee is the incumbent party, that a party in power, then I think that slightly advantages NASA. Should NASA stop campaigning? I don't think so, because this election is going to be won on the basis of turnout, is going to be won on the basis of how you motivate, especially your stronghold, and how you compete in the so-called swing constituencies. But I think the other thing that I think we should mention is that we are assuming that this register is accurate. I've personally had a problem with the voter register, but I think that is a discussion of a different of another day. I did a study, an LLM study on the electoral process, and I don't think the audit company did a lot of good work, because to tell us that we only needed 92,000 voters.
They're projecting almost a million, but 92,000 are actual. That is the actual one. Figures they got.
But we are staring at a very close election.
Right. Gabriel, David in Langata says, numbers and regions. Why the assumption that I will vote for Uhuru Kenyatta due to the only fact that I come from Kiambu? Or the same if you come from Nyanza or Kakamega. Time to decongest our minds with such backward reasons. Let's vote based on policies, manifesto, etc. I want to believe when both Murkomen and Kaluma were telling us about their numbers, they looked at some of their strongholds, isn't it? They assumed.
We just calculated based on what happened last 2013, not because one comes from where. Because,
okay, but this is a concerned viewer.
And I think that's actually an amazing point. And you know what? I give a lot of credence to what that gentleman has said. But the fact remains that we still vote along the tribal directories. I don't think that's just about to change anytime soon. I would love that it goes the way this gentleman is saying, but we are yet to see. But that cannot also break us away from the fact that we have seen Wanjiku get it right. Get it right in the earnest that we saw a gentleman called Cyrus Omondi from Kahawa Wendani, you know, getting voted in Jubilee as an MCA in Kiambu. So that tells you if Wanjiku gets it right, and this I'm talking probably to the youth, and I know we'll capture this later on. If they get it right, then I think that narrative that that gentleman is trying to push across may actually have some element of truth in it. However, when I look at these numbers, and it's good, I was racking them here, you know, just a little bit, and my good friend Tom was actually giving Honorable Murkomen, you know, the racking in of the numbers. Give them this, give them this, give them this. If actually you give them what you've just said, they'll add up to about 9 million. Just add up it again. Add up again. When you look at, you know, I'm looking at Nairobi. I'm looking at Rift Valley. When you look at Rift Valley, when you look at Central at 3 million, and you know, and I don't again want to go deep into these numbers, but they'll add up to about 9 million. Again, I would like actually to devote a little bit from those numbers right now. Yeah, Rift Valley, if you look at it, right now, it's 4.6, right? Yeah, that's 4.6. When you look at it, 2.9, that's about 3 million. That gives you what? 4.9. 4 plus 3, my friend.
But that is an assumption.
Those are the assumptions. Those are the numbers that you're looking at. Why now we'll go back to it is this is not, and we need to get it right, this is not a clean. Right. This is not a clean return, and I agree with you.
It won't change much.
Right? It may not change much, but still we are not having the refined numbers. So what we are going with, it will really average on the fact that, you know what, we still don't have clean numbers. Let's give it at that. Because when you look at 800,000 votes, which was the departure that Jubilee won with last time, and a clean vote, which we are saying we can remove at about maybe probably 800 million. Those are serious numbers. But again,
but they will remove 92,000. That is the actual figure. The other ones are projections. But my question, Gabriel. Right. Okay, finish here.
Yeah, where I was actually coming to answer your question.
Yeah.
The thing is, I think there needs to be, and I agree with these two gentlemen to that effect. There needs to be a serious campaigns for their people to come out and vote.
Okay.
You do not go with this per se, because you're looking, when they say come out to vote and voter apathy, I still don't get that, because if you look at how we voted in 2013, you're looking at people coming out 87%. 87% people showed out to vote. Actually, we are number 2 in the world after Uzbekistan. All right? So people came out to vote. Don't let politicians lie to you that they did not come out to vote. And they will do come out to vote. But the edge that may give somebody a win at this point will be, and I know we'll talk about this later, will be these new numbers, 5.2 million. Who are these people? I think that is what we need to be discussing right now.
From those figures, and that's the next question I want to come to. From those figures, I mean, does it point to which coalition sufficiently energize its base in terms of registration? And could it be a pointer to what will happen in terms of the election itself, Papa?
2 things. I'll say 2 things on that one. They've both camps have burnt the midnight oil, and you've seen the kinds of campaigns that they've done. You remember some time back, I think, if I'm getting it, if I get it right, I remember Sakaja, Honorable Sakaja had an initiative where he called it Chukua ID. It started by capturing the people who are living from 4. And I also think ODM came with theirs, which was also fronting that. So people were being, the young people who are coming in are being told to take their IDs. But if I'm really truthful, I think both camps have done their very best to ensure that their strongholds remain intact. They've done the very best. I mean, I've seen places where you've had, you know, crazy registrations. People have come out to register.
For example,
so
I'll look at a few counties, for example. The one that was leading, according to this list, remember IBC is going to give a final list in the next few days. Not much departure, but we'll see from this. Kiambu, 322,048 voters, was leading as a county. Nakuru was second, 257,322. Meru was third, 212,070 voters. One of the counties that the opposition has been really focusing on, and you believe that you're going to get a substantial amount of votes there. That's what you've been saying as your position. Machakos, 177,945 as fifth. Kakamega, 177,421. Mombasa, 169,406. Then we'll have Kisumu at number 7, 152,000. Homa Bay, 150,000. Number 8, Kituyu, 150,000. Bungoma, 147,000. So back to that question that I asked. Yes, you want to respond?
Yeah, actually, it's actually not just the stronghold.
Yes.
These figures that you're reading and the closeness of this election confers special responsibility on IEBC to ensure that the election is managed professionally and competently. Because when elections are close, then unfortunately, if it's not managed well, then it might bring a problem. What then needs to be done? And I've said this severally, that the turnout, the so-called turnout, especially in the strongholds of the leading parties, Jubilee, the entire Mount Kenya region, and Kalenjin Rift Valley, and Luo Nyanza, that turnout is a fallacy. 90%, 100% turnout is not there. So what it means is that the IEBC must ensure that the electronic voter identification devices work, but also they have an excellent results management system. How will they be able to transmit the results? But also, secondly, the two parties must ensure that they put in mechanism to deter rigging. This is how the New Patriotic Party of Ghana won. And if they can ensure that there is absolutely no rigging, then I think that is going to be a game changer.
Right.
Yes.
You're talking about specific counties. Do you believe clustering them, and you got what number did you get when you gave Murkomen 8 million? You got what number?
Yeah, the number we had, assuming we split Nairobi equal, is 10 million to actually 10.2 million.
That's the 10 million strong, isn't it?
Yes.
So you're assuming that those counties where you're counting, and the same with Murkomen, will vote for your coalition or your party.
Not assuming, I know they will.
How do you know that?
You know, we must discuss this thing in the context of what issues will determine how Kenyans vote. And let me tell you, we may run from it, but Jubilee has the burden of incumbency. And there are issues that make incumbency a burden to Jubilee. Remember, we've been talking about negative ethnicity. If the people of Kenya believe Jubilee has done well in that regard, good for them. They can have inroads beyond the two traditional areas. If the people of Kenya believe they have not done as well as they ought to have done to deal with that national software issue, they are cast and dry. And this is why I'm telling you this thing is settled. We have the issues of the state of economy, which is affecting everybody, whether you are a Luo, whether you are a Westerner, whether you are a Kikuyu, whether you are whatever. Now, if you look at it that way, look at the population that is registering anew. It is mainly youth. If those youthful people, with the information they now have in gadgets, in technology and everything, in reading, being young, you know, can agree to the fact that Jubilee has been ruling the country well and good, that is good for Jubilee. But I know the sentiments of the country, and I can tell you, if you look at the areas we call, you know, the zones I was talking about, I was looking at the counties critically. In fact, we are now into Nairobi deeply as the 25th county we must take.
I think voters are clever, and we believe in Jubilee that the voters will look at the development record, will look at the manifesto of each one of us, and look at the track record of all the leadership. If it's about track record, the track record of Uhuru and Ruto is unmatched when it comes to development, the things we've done, and at a very short time. The advantage we have in Jubilee is that the people we are competing with were already in office in the past. So there's something to judge them with. You know, you can say, what did the former Prime Minister do for the 5 years he was in office, the Vice President, the ministers, Mudavadi, the Minister Wetangula. If you put them together, we confidently believe that if you compare our track record in terms of development and theirs, it's unmatched. Number two, it will boil down to whom do you trust to lead? You know, whom do you trust to lead? And if you look at the lies that has been perpetuated in NASA, you know, even if it comes even to just coalition arrangement, even agreeing that they are told each other Kalonzo will lead in 2017, even for Kenyans to believe that the five would hold together, if you look at the, you know, how they're even campaigning, how they arrived at the presidential candidature, the mistrust in between, look at even Ukambani. I can tell you for as a matter of fact, the base of Kalonzo Musyoka is going to give us a lot of votes because they know very well. Yeah, they know very well. You know very well. They know very well that. No, I didn't reject when you spoke. Yeah, they know very well that when it comes to whom do you trust to lead between Uhuru in performance in eastern part of the country and the Raila Odinga candidature, they believe in Uhuru Kenyatta. So I'm going to say that we are not, and that's why you're saying you can see. We are campaigning all over the country. We are campaigning in Nyanza. We are campaigning in Western. We are focusing in Coast. We have taken over all of Northeastern.
You need to.
The point is this. It's because we have, if we didn't believe that we had a chance to succeed, we would not have, we would not have been campaigning the way we are campaigning. And I can tell you for sure, no effort will go unrewarded.
Okay, let's take a look at some key voter demographics here. You'll respond to that later on. If we can have that again. Voters between ages 18 to 24 years are 3.3 million. 3,389,425. You can see women and men there. Women voters registered 9.6 million, men 9.9 million, a difference of about 300,000 thereabout. Then, yes, these are the demographics I was talking about. 18 to 24, 3.3 million. That is separate because that includes new voters. 18 to 35, 9.9 million. That is the bulk of voters there. You call them the youth. 35 to 55, 6 million. Over 55, 3 million. Looking at the demographics, Felix,
yes,
will these candidates and their parties and the coalitions be advised to pay attention to specific voter registration demographics and try and appeal to them? And are they doing that? Or will it even matter ultimately?
Absolutely. And from this demographic, it's clear that the young people between 18 to 35 are the majority of voters. Right. And that is the trend almost everywhere in the whole world. If you look at the last elections in the US, the young people, President Trump, defeated Hillary Clinton on just about every demographic, and more so the young people. Now, the party that is going to win 2017 is going to be a party that is going to not only appeal to the young people, but is going to come up with programs and the inspiration that they can actually trust that particular political party. That is the party that is going to carry the day.
Do you see either of them doing that?
If you compare 2013 to 2017, and with the whole honesty, I think President Uhuru Kenyatta slightly beat Prime Minister Raila Odinga in 2013 with respect to young voters. But if you look at, Jubilee has been in power for the last 4 years. And if you look at their track record, to the extent that, in my own estimation, they are almost at par, I think the ground has shifted. And both the two leading coalitions actually stand a chance to appeal to the youth. Probably, and that's why I say, to the extent that they're the same, probably slightly advantages NASA, which is in the opposition. Now, what should Raila, I think why Raila lost it in 2013 is this. The way the message was packaged to young people was packaged in a manner that the very good credentials of having fought for second liberation, of having really struggled for this country, was what was sold. The problem with that is that a voter who was born in 1990 and voted for, in 1992 when we voted, is now 23 years of age. And so ODM and, NASA this time around would have to repackage that message and that platform to appeal to these voters, especially the young people.
Okay. Now, appealing to the youth or a certain demographic as a group, or, for example, that is why we highlighted the 18 to 24, because it has, the 3 million has new voters. People tend to think and want to believe and want to happen in this country. People want to see a change in this country, and that people will finally not vote according to ethnic lines, isn't it? So do you think any party will appeal to the youth as a group, or will appeal to the youth still within their ethnic backgrounds?
The problem is, by and large, still in their ethnic background. I've heard young people talk. I've watched on social media how people exchange notes. Hussein, if your question is that do we have undecided voters, especially the young people?
Exactly.
They are pretty much decided. The die is cast. It's
Still
either
along ethnic lines.
Yes.
So that is why
much
people
along-
see
absolutely.
there should be a difference maybe in future.
I hope so. In future, yes.
Well, I beg to differ. I beg, actually, on this, I beg to differ on this equation. The last demography that you've talked about, and I agree to an extent that it cuts half of the registered voters. The youth now, or the so-called the Facebook radicals, have actually a different theme from what we have. I agree with you when you said that NASA needs to repackage themselves, because these people coming in don't understand that, you know, there was things like what you would call the democratic revolution. They don't understand that. They don't need to understand it. Just because they want to be associated with something. Now, researchers have documented, and this is not me, this is research, the youth will always go for somebody they identify with. Birds of the same feather, my friend, they flock together. So if you put Raila here and you put Uhuru here, who do you think? The youth who have not, I'm telling you, this is not me, this is research. You saw Obama, you know, he actually went and was yet to even get the many youth voters from actually white states. Why? Because they were identifying with him. What the question we should be asking Hussein is, do the youth of this nation identify with the economic of our times? I think most of them are educated more than we think. Being the fact that they now understand what is happening, they get easily excited. Look at how they are excited on the SGR. To them, they do not exactly. To them, they do not understand half of the politics that we are talking about. What they are understanding is, I'm able to travel from Nairobi to go and party in Mombasa for 700 shillings. If you have those people, hundreds of them thinking about the same, then that would put Uhuru Kenyatta at an advantage with the youth. The reason being, they look at a president who can tie his shoe, and trust me, this works magic. They look at a president who can tie his shoe on the tarmac, waiting to board an airplane. So that's some of the things that excite the youth, and you cannot run away from that.
You know, Hussein, how does the tying of shoes by Kenyatta on the tarmac?
I told you the excitement.
Yes, yeah, put food on the table of the youth. Remember, these people you're talking about called the youth. These are largely the students or the people who are starting their livelihoods. They are the border operator down there. When under Kenyatta fuel price is beyond, what is, you know, Kenyatta tying, you know, shoes or dancing, those things, you know, dances have to do with it. The beauty of thinking the youth, in my view, Sen, is that you look at people who are not thinking about, I should vote for Raila Odinga because it's a Luo. I should vote for Uhuru Kenyatta because he's a Kikuyu. And by the way, that is the bulk of the population that is going to determine the direction of the country in the future. The thinking by my brother that it cannot be is not. I've spoken to so many youths, I can tell you.
Do you think it can happen now?
It is going to happen. Because you see, the situation of our economy, you can talk of SGR, let me tell you. But as against my grandmother or mother at home, the youth understands faster when I tell him the cost of SGR got your 100 billion looted. You get what I mean? And they read more than my mother or father at home there. Now this is a group, and I'm telling you, saying I've spoken to youths in Kiambu, I've spoken to youths in Muranga. Meet them in clubs today. When they're buying something to drink, they know how it pinches. These people are going to shock people. In fact, this is where all political formations should focus on.
Finally,
I think I agree. There will be a small fraction of the youth that will vote not, you know, based on the tribe and whatever. They will vote because they really have conscious about what they want from this country. And I think you cannot ignore what Gabriel was saying about the person they identify with, even if it comes closeness in age, even closeness in looks. The hustler they have in Jubilee, you know, that person who used to sell eggs and now is a deputy president, and you know, that kind of thing. What youth are looking for most is not so much about the job itself, but the inspiration, the hope, the possibility they can do things for themselves, the opportunity for them to start business and they can do it, the opportunity for them to, you know, run their, and I think to a great extent people are ignoring so many things that are going on when it comes to, you know, the loans that you'd get, the ability for them to register for businesses, the ability for the education system to be fixed. And those are the things that as Jubilee would like to appeal to. But also youth are looking for someone who can tell them the truth, not someone who wakes up and says we're going to Canaan tomorrow and doesn't tell them that the cost of traveling between here and Canaan is how much, and what will it cost. You know, the point is that you must be also realistic, as Kaluma was saying, because our colleagues, as we speak up to now, they are either talking about their track record as the historical facts they did in 1960s, or they are progress in Canaan without
was Uhuru Kenyatta in government before? Or was Ruto in government before?
They were all in government. They were all in government. I'll give you the
final. But the youth know.
I think the young people in this country, it's to a larger extent they are aware of what is happening, and to the extent that you cannot pinpoint with certainty, because if Jubilee's track record was as good as my brother and learned colleague is trying to say, then this election ought to have been decided a long time ago. But we are staring at an extremely close elections. The parting shot is that IEBC should understand the responsibility that is on their is conferred upon them, and to ensure that the process happens in a credible manner, and political parties as go out, motivate their stronghold, but more so put in mechanisms to deter rigging.
All right, Felix Odhiambo is an electoral law expert. Senator Kipchumba Murkomen, Elgeyo Marakwet County, also the deputy majority leader. I forgot that because it's been a while since you came here. Peter Opondo Kaluma, MP, Homa Bay Town, and Gabriel Muduma, political analyst. Thank you so much for making time for us. Keep talking to us. The hashtag is a big question. On Twitter, you can text us on 22422 as well. We're back after this break.
Is my lover, and I have a son with her. We have his grandson, and we've been working